Hey, what's going on? I am Matt O'Leary back with another video, and today we'll be looking at Zach Wilson's game against Coastal Carolina, one of the more controversial ones, and talking about was it actually a good game or was it a bad game? Because I feel like on Twitter and online, just in general, you have people who are like, that was one of his bad games, and you have people who are like, well, that was one of his good games. So before we get started, just wanted to mention you can follow me on social media at Matt O'Leary NY. If you haven't already, please make sure to check out the podcast wherever it is you check out your podcast. And if you like this video, please make sure to give it a thumbs up and leave an applause if you want. All right, so for context, both these teams were undefeated and both these teams were ranked. Coastal Carolina had a really good defense this past year. They were like 16th in the league overall. In the whole country, I guess, really, the league. I'm talking about like the NFL. In the whole country, they were a top 20 defense, and they were solid, and they got a lot of pressure on Zach Wilson, and that was shown. It was evident. So I'm going to just talk about the game in general. I'm going to show you some plays, not all of the plays, but I'm going to show you some. So without further ado, let's jump right into it. And realistically, it was a slow start for BYU because they only had one drive really in the first quarter. They got the ball back for their second drive with like 10 seconds left in the first quarter. So they would have a 91-yard touchdown called back because of a holding penalty. And they would drive a little bit, but they ended up punting. There is one play here. Let me transfer. There is one play that I want to show you, and it's a scenario where Zach Wilson has to slide. And at the next level, I mean, he can't do instead, which is, again, that's not what you want to do because at the next level, you're not going to be able to get away with that. Now, to his credit, he did slide pretty much in every other spot after that. But in that instance, like, you're going to get yourself hurt. So we want to avoid that. That was very Ryan Fitzpatrick-esque. So we would like to avoid that going forward. So as I mentioned, that was their lone drive of the first quarter. After that, Coastal Carolina would march down the field on a long drive, and they would go up 6-0. They missed the extra point, but it was a 9-minute and 5-second drive. And what they did was they ran the ball all game long down the throat of the BYU defense. So their game plan was very obvious. Keep the ball out of Zach Wilson's hands, and for the most part, it worked really well. So in drive 2, he was really showing off some RPOs. There was a nice 42-yard rush for a touchdown for the BYU running back, and BYU would end up going up 7-6. So there was nothing really that I wanted to show you from this drive. Realistically, I wanted to get into the third drive of the game. So at this point, they are up 7-6. I'm going to transition back to this. I'm going to skip ahead a little bit now. We want to get to 44-45. Let's skip ahead. Okay, we'll scoot it back to like right here. 44-27. We got to go forward a little bit more. Here we go. 44-45. So what happens here, it's a fourth down play. And they decide to run kind of a trick play, but it works. You'll see in a second. Zach Wilson hits his receiver perfectly, and it was just flat out dropped. That should be a completion. No doubt about it. That should be a completion. So just keep in mind, I'm going to talk about his stats at the end, but there are 3 plays in this game where his receivers let him down, and the stat line would have looked completely different on top of what it ends up to be at the end. So that's 25 yards and +1 completion right there. Just keep that in the back of your head. So let's transition back and just talk a little bit more. So the next possession for Coastal Carolina would be an 11-play drive. Again, just eating clock, 5 minutes and 54 seconds, and they would go up 13-7. Drive 4, for BYU and Zach Wilson. There were a couple of quick throws. He was getting himself in rhythm a little bit. There was a big Wilson run where he did slide, and they would end up going up 14-7 when he would hit an open receiver, and then just, I don't know what happened to Coastal Carolina's defense in this instance. They went right to sleep as the tackling was just really bad. I'm not going to show you anything from this drive. Instead, I'm going to show you their 5th and final drive, or some clips from their 5th and final drive of the first half. So BYU gets the ball back on the 29-yard line with 38 seconds left. So first, there is a 3rd and 15 that I want to show you here. Let's transition back and skip ahead to, where am I at? 110.01 I want to get to. Skip way ahead. Okay, I could probably pump up a little bit, but he still had the arm strength to get it and put it in a good spot. So awesome. Perfect. So then let's continue on showing you things. His Hail Mary pass ends up getting picked off. So the one interception comes on the final play of the first half. And a lot of people, they see the interception in the box score and they say, "Oh, see, he was picked off," which is true. At the half, we could talk some numbers as of right now. 6 of 13, not great. 107 yards, 1 TD, 1 interception. That's still 7.9 yards per attempt, which is pretty solid. I mean, it's a little bit lower than what he was for the entirety of the season, and in most games it was higher than a 7.9, but that's a massive step forward than what the Jets are used to. So on drive 6 for BYU, they moved the ball inside the 20 and would end up settling for a field goal to go up 7-13. Still 7-13 at this point. On drive 7, the running back would fumble on the first carry and set up Coastal Carolina for a field goal to make it 17-16. So I don't really have to show you anything on that. On drive 8, I do want to show you a drop from a wide receiver. We have another drop on a really big play on a nice ball on, I believe it would have been, I think it was first down. Let's skip ahead. We got to go up to 133-13. Bear with me a second as I get us forward. Okay, so it was first down on this. If it hits you in the chest right there, you have to hang on to that ball. That's a 55. That would have been a 55-yard reception and put BYU in great position. Instead, they would end up punting. So here, let's transition back and talk for a second. They would end up punting, and then Coastal Carolina would go on a long 13-play drive. That's what they were doing all game long. Coastal Carolina was hanging onto the ball. It was 6 minutes and 6 seconds, so eating clock, and they would go up 22-17. At this point, before we get into drive 9, his numbers were at a 7.9 yards per attempt, 11 for 20 with 156 yards. So let's transition back to the video here and skip ahead to 155.30 at this point. So let's go forward. We have another drop to show you and talk about, because it would have, this was to me the most frustrating part. And I rewatched this whole game because I wanted to see for myself. I rewatched yesterday and I made my notes to see if did Zach Wilson actually play well. Forward a touch, will it show it to us? Yeah, that's a ball that has to be caught. Has to. Again, defender makes a nice play, but you have to hang on to that ball. That would have been another reception for another 15 yards. Now the next play, let's go to 156.11. Or yeah, this is close enough. Being third and 7, 3rd and 8, something, which is still not great, but more manageable. It turns into a 3rd and 30 without a penalty. He just ran backwards for 12 yards or more than that, 20-yard loss. It was insane. I couldn't believe that. It was just, again, unbelievable. You can't, don't do that. Young people watching this video, never ever do that. So they again punt. Coastal Carolina would punt back. Ball on the 42-yard line. 6:54 to go in the game. They are trailing by what at this point? It's 22-17, so they're trailing by 5 at this point. Nothing going. It would be a 3 and out. They would run. So it was a dump off completion for about 2 to 3 yards, then run on 2nd down, run on 3rd down, and then they would end up punting it back. Now, drive 11 is the final drive of the game. So at this point, heading into the final drive, he's 14 to 24, 150 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 int, 58 completion percentage, which is low, 6.25 yards per attempt, which is also low. Now, the first play would be a holding, which would bring the ball back to the 9 with 45 seconds left. And then on 2nd and 19, and then on 1st down and long, he would throw it away on 1st and 19. So let's skip ahead to 2nd and 19 with, I believe, 43 seconds left. We got to skip ahead to 2:16 because, again, this is the final drive of the game at this point, trailing 26. Where would I say 2:16:41? Okay, so we got a little ways to go. Here we go. From Zach Wilson, picks up a big chunk, and now you're in a little bit of shape. So they would pick up 12 to the running back with 15 seconds left to the Coastal Carolina 46. Then they would get it up to the 32 with 7 seconds left. So let's skip to 2:20:30. And this is just an example of Zach Wilson taking what the defense gives him in this spot and setting up for a much now at the 17 with 3 seconds left. so much easier now from that point, and good recognition there. So now let's skip ahead because they take a couple of timeouts and stuff. 2:21, 17. This is close enough. So final play of the game from Zach Wilson. Now keep in mind the ball was at the 9 with 35 seconds left. They got it to the 17, and that would do it. Coastal Carolina would hang on. That gives me Tennessee Titans and Rams vibes from the Super Bowl in 99 or 2000? Yeah, I guess the 99 season into 2000 Super Bowl. So stopped at the 2. So Wilson's final game line goes like this. He finishes 19 of 30, which is a 63.3 completion percentage, for 240 yards, which is 8 yards per attempt, which is pretty solid. It's decent. And 1 touchdown, 1 interception. Overall, a 68.1 QBR, a 134.9 quarterback rating. And on top of that, he had 10 carries for 55 yards. Now, if you remember, I showed you 3 drops in this game. If those 3 plays were completed, and again, nothing else. I'm not talking about if the drive would continue and they'd score points. Like, just looking at those 3 plays, how much his stat line would have been different. That would then become 22 of 30, which is 73%. So a 10% difference on the completion percentage. 335 yards, essentially 95 more passing yards. And his YPA would have skyrocketed to 11.2. So I understand the argument that, Zach Wilson, they didn't play anyone. 2, they always had they had better guys on their roster than the other teams that they were playing and stuff like that. Well, his team very much so let him down in this game. Number 1, the receivers. There was 3 obvious drops in this game that would have completely changed his stat line. Number 2, the defense was atrocious. They let up like 150 rushing yards in the first half. And how many drives did I talk about where Coastal Carolina was just marching down the field at will, eating chunks and chunks and chunks of time? So massive difference. And I would say he played pretty well. Was it his best game in his collegiate career? No. Did he give his team a chance to win this game? Absolutely. And if a couple of other plays were made in this game, he's thrown for over 300 yards. His completion percentage is up near 70%. And we're talking about this game completely different. And they probably win that game. Because let's be honest here. If they complete that, there's a first down on the last incompletion I talked about. There's a first down. They don't have that stupid second down play. That bomb would have put him inside like the 25-yard line. It's just the little things that you have to do and look at when you're looking at a quarterback. I know it might be fun to like look at the box score and say, only 240 yards and an interception. Was it really a great, and only 1 touchdown? Was it really a great game? I don't know if I'd go as far to say it was a great game, but it definitely wasn't a bad game for Zach Wilson. So just wanted to talk about it. Let me know what you think about his performance from this game down in the comments below or on social media. Thanks so much for tuning in today. I'm Matt O'Leary, and I'll talk to you next time.